Hello, good morning, and welcome to this overnight challenge. We have two American bourbon whiskeys, both at 80 proof. This is Old Charter, who has been battling every other bourbon that I own. It's been doing all right, I guess. Okay, but not exactly a standout. Introduced in 1974. No age statement. Buffalo Trace. It's made at Buffalo Trace in Frankfort, Kentucky. All right. Put the link below. It's now called Old Number 8 brand. There used to be an Old Charter 10-year age. There was also an 8-year age. There was a 7-year age. Now, whether you can find those still, I don't know. I was talking about the Old Charter Oak versions. Those are the more expensive ones. I don't know where to find those, okay? If you call Sazerac, they'll tell you where to track them down if they're close to you. All right, so that's an old brand. You don't see much attention to it anymore, but it is one of the old line brands. Here is something that's been around only 12 years. This is Jesse James American Outlaw Bourbon, America's Outlaw Bourbon whiskey. I got this. Oh, Old Charter. I got this for $8. $8. Walmart closeout. Great deal. Can't complain. Jesse James. I got this at Savannah discount, and I got this liter bottle. I repeat, liter bottle for $7. And that's the truth. $7 for a liter. Can you believe it? It's the truth. It's bottled in California. It doesn't say Kentucky straight bourbon. I mean, it doesn't say any state. Sorry about that. It's bottled in California. It just says bourbon. And it doesn't say, and it's aged 2 years. This is the 2-year version. Now, if you look at the website, it says age 36 months. So I don't know why they sent a 2-year-old, but they did. But normally when you see it, it'll be age 3 years. So this is a young one. You say, well, 2 years, that's the minimum for straight bourbon. So why is it not straight bourbon? Well, because straight bourbon has to be all from the same state. Whoops. So the story with this one is that it's probably a blend of different bourbon, different states. So it could be some Indiana bourbon, some Kentucky bourbon. All right. Bottled by Jesse James Distilling Company in Mira Loma, California. It's probably some bottling plant that's not owned by Jesse James Dupree. They're probably just using that name. It's probably some old bottling facility that has nothing to do with him. Okay. But he sells all kinds of things. He sells clothes, apparel, call it American Outlaw Apparel. He sells music. He goes on tour playing music. He's on tour now with a band called Dixie. And I was looking at his website. It said, we play country music from the days when it was country music. Saying that what you hear on the radio now is not country music. Yeah, well, a lot of that stuff was really city music. You know, because it's recorded in cities like Nashville. And it's really not much to do with the country, living in the rural areas. It's all corporate, if you want to call it corporate pop music, country, so-called thing. like rock music, like Fleetwood Mac is more like your corporate sound, Southern California corporate rock, English American corporate rock. All right, but it sounds good. All right, super produced, um, all that country stuff. But anyway, that's what he does. So I'm not doing this during the day. I don't see the sun shining down on me. Okay, so it's dark. It's nighttime. Okay. I'm a little short on the Jesse James. Is it going to be different? I don't think they're going to be much different, even though it's a year less aging. Well, at least 2 years younger, right? The Jesse James we know is at least 2 years younger. You say, well, the old charter doesn't have an age statement. How do you know that? Because if a whiskey does not have an age statement, it must be at least 4 years old. I'm talking about United States whiskey, U.S. law. So therefore, it has no age statement, so we know it's at least 4 years old. Could be older. But Jesse James says 2 years. So try finding a 2-year-old Jesse James. You have a hard time finding Jesse James. Although I think they do have it at Total Wine here locally. I'm talking about 25 miles from me, but the price is like $17 for the regular bottle. So they both set about $17. So the price here is the same, $17. But like I said, I did not pay the regular price. I paid $7 for Jesse James liter bottle. Pay like that liter, and $8 for the old Charter standard size bottle. Halo Daycare says, hey to you. All right. Well, good morning, early nighttime morning. You know what I'm saying. And here we go. My recollection with these two whiskeys is these two bourbon whiskeys they're rather dull. They don't taste bad. I don't know how anybody would sip on them and say, "Oh, that's bad. That tastes bad. That's a nasty flavor." It's not that. That's not the complaint. The complaint is that it is a relative lack of flavor. Okay, compared to other bourbons. I did that last night when I did the Jim Beam. That was I did two last night. I did the Jim Beam against the just the old Charter, and Jim Beam had more flavor. The price was less, but the flavor was more. So you don't always win by paying more, because I paid less for Jim Beam and it was a better product. Okay, that smells just like standard bourbon whiskey, meaning corn, charred oak, vanilla. Got those three components. And a lot of sugar water. To me, bourbon tastes like sugar water, in a general sense. Now, I know that might sound foolish, silly, dumb, bad, but I don't really care because that's what it tastes like to me. Okay. Yeah, same old components, but it's got this kind of old furniture smell, which is making me think the Jesse James. I remember having a little bit of an unusual aroma. Well, it's been months since I had it, so not quite sure. If you notice, I'll do so many, I'll lose track. I try not to lose track, though. I try to keep a mental catalog of it, but it's not really that easy. I don't take notes like I should, huh? Write notes. I guess my notes are my reviews that are posted on distiller.com and so forth. Pretty much everything I buy, I can find it on that, and I'll write a review. Then I'll copy and paste it on Total Wine or Google, just to have a database that I don't have to store, and to let people know what I think about it. That's standard. And kind of bland. All right. Oh, and the Jesse James say it's charcoal mellowed. It says it on the website. That's for the 3-year age. I don't think this one says anything about charcoal mellowing. Oh, yeah, it does. Charcoal mellowed and aged in oak casks. Okay. So they drip it through charcoal. Mm-hmm. Somebody was saying, oh, I think with some of these cheaper ones, they just throw charcoal into the barrel, and then strain it out. But I said, but how would that filter the product, unless you're just adding it for a taste, for a flavor. If you let the charcoal soak in there for a flavor, I don't get it. But I'm not a food scientist. Okay. Their contention is they're not taking the time to drip it like they do Jack Daniels, one drip at a time from the whole barrel, or the fermentate, the still, the THESTILL, the still, one at a time. Then they age it. Well, if there's a shortcut way of doing it, maybe they're doing it. I'm just not aware of that shortcut. People say things. They're interesting things that they say. I'm not arguing that it's not, but they don't have any source material to back up their contention. You know what I'm saying? Like they'll say, oh yeah, I bet it's whatever. Okay, but that's just an expression too. I bet, because they're not really betting. And secondly, they're not wagering. They never come up with any information, like any substantive source material. They'll say stuff, but they don't back it up. I need source material. Don't tell me I got a friend who's in the industry. That's not source material, okay? It's kind of like, oh, Trump said this, Trump said that. Oh, how do I know that? Oh, a source says so. Or how do you know he's not lying? Or it's just made up. How you might be lying. Okay, BC's Beer Reviews, OBC's Beer Reviews. Good morning, Ron, and everyone in chat. Thank you, BC. I appreciate you watching. And regardless of if it's in a bottle or a can, he's going to review the beer, y'all. Okay. These are close. They're not the same. They're close. And I'm not sure which is which. And the price is the same. The aging is not. Well, okay. That's just the way it is. I'm going to take one more sip, and then I'm going to try to determine. As far as which one's better, it's impossible to say, I guess. Because this one's got more charred oak, but this one's got more like honey sweetness and vanilla. So they both have their nice little attributes, but neither one has anything that's outstanding that you want to go look for. So I wouldn't go try to track them down. But if you run across a deal like I did for either one, well, you have to buy it then if you're into the whiskey movement. The whiskey movement, you heard that? So some people drink whiskey like they're part of some cause, like it's a cause. It's not a cause. You're just buying consumer products and drinking them. Well, in some people's case, they're buying them and not drinking them. They just buy unopened bottles and they never drink them. They'll have a room a room this big full of bottles, boxes of bottles, unopened, never been drunk. never been opened. And they be trading with each other, buying and selling, trading, auction. But I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine with me, especially since I don't have to store it, or buy it. But I'm just kind of baffled by it. Seems to me you would want to actually drink it. Uh, you might say, well, you bought comic books. You passing judgment, and you got $8,000 worth of comic book. Well, I'm not passing judgment, and secondly, I say I was baffled by it, and secondly, I read all these. See, get the point? I bought them to read. I read every single one, all 8,000. You say, well, you're lying. I can prove it. I've got an index. I went and every one of these that I read, which is every one of these, I wrote down in the index what happened in the story. A little synopsis. Catwoman, comma, penguin, chemical plant. So I'll put little descriptions. No Superman appearance. There was one comic book. It was Superman, but it was no Superman. He wasn't in the story at all. Only on the cover. And I thought, what a ripoff. People bought this for Superman. They didn't buy it so they could read 22 pages of Lois Lane talking to Jimmy Olsen about life problems. And I'm like, what? No, what is this about? Okay, so I buy. You said, well, you buy a lot of beer. Yeah, I know, and I drink it. Those are all open bottles. Those are all opened. They're empty, except for the Michelob down there, over my back shoulder, over my left shoulder. I couldn't open those because it would tear the shroud. They got a paper shroud covering them, so I had to keep them closed. Otherwise, I wouldn't drink. So I had to save one bottle out of every 6-pack and not open it. But that was only for not so I didn't tear the shroud. I didn't want to circumcise the beer. You know what I mean. But anyway, ta-da-ta-da-ta. My friend David's got all this beer, but he never drinks it. I say, well, and I told him, do what you want. You can save it for 20 more years. I said, but I don't understand it. And he was saying something like, you judging me or something. I said, no, I'm not I said, no, I'm not understanding you. And I'm not hot to drink it, especially these bottles are from 2015, 2016. I don't want to drink that beer. It's going to taste stale and old. I know. I don't care what the ABV is. You say, oh, it's 16%. It ages well. Yeah, it doesn't really age well. I've drunk all these old beers, and you know what they taste like? 16% old beer. They just taste old, stale, and worn out. And I didn't like it. And I told my friend David, you're killing all your beer. Well, it's all killed now. It's dead. As far as I'm concerned, it's all dead. And I know another guy I talked to on the internet, he's got 10 times what my friend David's got. My friend David's got way too many. David's got way too many. Shane got 10 times the amount. Going back, who knows how many years. I said, well, you're going to drink it? He's not going to drink it. He don't know what he's going to do with it. All sealed. Once again, not passing judgment. Secondly, don't care. I didn't buy it, and I don't have to store it. Now, if you thought I was going to store it here, you'd be very wrong. I think this is the Jesse James, because there's a little bit of that Flintstone vitamin taste. You say, well, oh, that's George Dickel. That's right. This has a little bit of that. Oh, are they using a little bit of cast off George Dickel in this bourbon? It's very possible. They might have bought these bourbons on the aftermarket, because Jesse James is not a distillery. I don't care what the label says, distillery. Yeah, they distill 0 products every year, and that's how many they've distilled in their whole life. But they buy, it's what you call an independent bottler. Independent, because they're an independent company, and they bottle whiskeys that they buy on the secondary market. Could have been an easy thing. Could have been where George Dickel said, look, we got this. They're not going to say it's bad, but, we got some stuff for sale. But it probably didn't come out right. And just like used cars, they have auctions. They might say, oh, we'll take that. And they said, what about the price? And then negotiate. Or they just put a set price, take it or leave it, and they might take it and they get it real cheap. Blend it with other bourbons, bottle it, and there you go. Do the same thing with scotch all the time, every day of the week. Maybe not Sunday. Do the same thing with Canadian whiskey. Some people have a conniption fit over that. I don't know why, but they do. Oh, they don't distill their own stuff. Right. They're not a distillery. They're a whiskey company. In other words, they buy whiskey, they reblend it, or it could be what they call a rectifying plant. They just rectify products. They blend them, maybe add water, take water out, or whatever they do. But they don't distill. And then they package it in a pretty label and you buy it. Then you liked it. Now you say, was it good? Oh, it was really good. I loved it. But they don't distill their own. Okay, well, they bought it from somebody else, but it tastes good, so it doesn't matter. Okay. Now, do they do that in the beer world? Well, they contract brew, but beer doesn't have that shelf life, so you couldn't really. But they contract brew, in the same little concept, and they contract distill. They don't just trade; they contract distill. Just specifically make a contract. Distill this much bourbon for us. Okay. We want you to distill this rum for us. Okay. Of course, you could present a bill for such services. After all, we're not communists. I'm going to say this is Old Charter, and it isn't really any better, but it's maybe a tad bit better. It is the Old Charter. So would I buy Old Charter over Jesse James? Yes, because it's the same price. $17 versus $17. A little bit better flavor. So it wins, but it doesn't win by much. It doesn't win by much. All right, so this was a very interesting video. May not be interesting to you. It was interesting to me. And Old Charter wins. Hadn't won too many contests in this tournament. Or how do some people pronounce it? Tournament. But it hadn't done terrible in either. Now we're down to the bottom 40% of the bottle. We're getting through it. We're getting through it. Does it have any sediment at this point? Because a lot of times when you get through the bottle, it starts showing sediment. If it gets to the bottom, especially with Sazerac products, nope, no sediment whatsoever. Jesse James. I'm still at 50%. Well, after all, it's a liter. And it's much darker. It is darker. No, I don't see any sediment. Nope. All right, so that's it. We'll be back for another bourbon taste challenge.